Good evening. First tonight, 2 protesters were arrested today as specialist equipment was moved onto a fracking site in North Yorkshire.
Test fracking, a controversial method of extracting gas and oil from shale rock underground, has been given the go-ahead at Kirby Misperton. It's yet to be given the final sign-off by the government, but drilling could start within weeks. Well, Danny Hewson is there for us this evening. Danny, it's been a little fraught there today by the sounds of things.
Yeah, Phil, absolutely. It has been a fraught day. Now, as you can see, the police have left and the majority of the protesters have also returned either to the camp up the road or to their homes. There are still a few who will camp out outside the well site overnight. Most that have been here today have said that they will be back tomorrow. We have had the first lorries on site carrying equipment which will prepare the site for those fracking operations. We do know more lorries are expected tomorrow and in the days to come.
No fracking anywhere!
It was always going to be tense.
No fracking anywhere!
Over 100 protesters blockaded the site entrance this morning, among them many locals who'd never been involved in direct action before. There were arrests. 2 men taken in custody. One has been released without charge. The other is still being questioned on suspicion of obstruction and assaulting a police officer. After delaying site access for over an hour, the protesters were kettled. The gates opened to allow the first lorries onto site. It's a difficult environment to work in, especially as many of those employed by Third Energy are local.
There is a huge amount of negativity surrounding fracking. A lot of people are very concerned. You know that, so why do it?
Opportunity for the area and the country is a great one that we should embrace, to be honest with you, in terms of jobs and energy security and a viable resource for this nation. So it's something that as we move forward that we should be looking to develop and the opportunities associated with it.
And you're convinced it can be done safely?
I'm convinced that we would not do anything if the safety element was not there.
But outside the gates they have little faith. So concerned are they about the potential impact on the environment, they're prepared to risk arrest.
Most people go about their daily business and they're not affected or they're not moved in such a way as to take this sort of action. But having gone through the process of trying to get your views felt, and given the threat of thousands of wells across Rydale, we feel many people feel they've got no choice but to take this action.
The police response has been criticised by protesters today, but in a statement, Superintendent Alistair Day said, "We have a duty to make sure that people who want to assemble and protest do so safely, balanced against a duty to ensure that businesses can go about their lawful commercial activity." Today has been difficult, and with more lorries expected tomorrow and in the days to come, it's unlikely to get any easier.
So what next? Well, we do know that from tomorrow Third Energy are expected to start bringing the sound barriers on tonight. These are shipping containers and they will form a perimeter around the site and dampen the sound. That means when they bring the rig on for the workover and then eventually carry out the hydraulic fractioning, that sound will be dampened. It is one of the conditions of the planning consent that they were given. Of course, what happens here is of great importance to the rest of the country. We do know that there are a number of applications currently going through. We know tonight in Misson in North Nottinghamshire there is a meeting being held where iGas has had consent to carry out an exploratory drill down into the shale bed. And of course there are many other people who are deeply concerned about this action. The government and Third Energy and the operators say that it is safe. They say that we need the gas, we need security of supply. Of course, that is contested by protesters. It is going to be a difficult few weeks and months, and I would imagine tomorrow will be just as difficult as today.
Thank you very much, Danny. Well, we're joined now from our Newcastle studio by Professor Richard Davies. He heads up the REFINE project, which carries out independent research into fracking. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Firstly, can we just clear something up? Because you say your organisation is independent, but you have received money from oil and gas industry in the past. How can we be sure that you're impartial?
Well, my record, we've been working on these sorts of topics for many years. And I'm afraid we've lost funding from industry because some of the work we've published wasn't what they wanted to see. So we've been entirely independent. We have very, very strong ethical procedures in the university. Our reputations depend on that independence and neutrality. And I think even the anti-frack groups that we've talked to, I think, realise we're totally independent.
OK, let's talk about a couple of issues that keep coming up time and time again. Firstly, does fracking contaminate drinking water?
Very little evidence for that. It has occurred in some instances in the United States where the borehole hasn't been cemented properly, so gas has actually leaked up it. But they were documenting in the 1970s and 80s in the United States, they actually could show that they could burn gas coming out of taps before fracking was even carried out, because gas was occurring naturally in water supplies.
Yeah, we've just seen those pictures there. Another thing, what about earthquakes? We've heard about fracking in Lancashire being halted because of this. Can the drilling cause earthquakes?
Yes, fracking can cause earthquakes. Mining can cause earthquakes. Filling dams with water can cause earthquakes. Fracking can definitely do this. If there's an event of 0.5 in magnitude, which we wouldn't be able to feel but's detectable, that would mean they'll have to stop fracking operations. So it's something these companies need to be very, very careful about.
Let me put this to you. How would you feel if fracking was planned at the end of your road, in your village or town?
One of the pieces of research we've done that's informed my thinking on this is who owns the wells after they've been drilled. 2,168 wells have been drilled in the UK over the last 100 years. Who owns the wells once the companies have gone, if they don't exist, let's say, in 5 or 10 years' time? So I'd ask that question, and I'd also ask some very basic questions about, I've got to get the kids to school in the morning. What about the traffic? What are you doing about it? I think what the questions that members of the public have been asking about fracking are very, very good indeed. They've shone a light on industry and on the government. These wells are going to be some of the most closely monitored wells ever drilled in the UK. So this entire process, as difficult as it is, means these wells are going to be very closely monitored indeed.
Professor Richard Davies, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.